They didn't expect her to win. Not the judges in polished blazers. Not the audience with their designer leashes and camera-ready dogs. And certainly not Grant Mallory, a renowned dog show judge known for his strict standards and unyielding opinions on who truly belonged in the elite world of canine competition. But Harper Quinn stood in the center of the ring, shoulders squared, one hand resting gently on the head of a calm, alert German shepherd named Valor. At 60, she looked nothing like a competitor, more like someone who'd wandered in from a different life entirely. A life marked by silence, scars, and survival. No one knew what it had taken for her to get there. No one, except for a 10-year-old girl named Maya and the dog who had saved her more than once. This was not just a story about winning. This was about healing, loyalty, and the unbreakable bond forged in darkness and tested in fire. Long before she ever stepped into that ring, Harper Quinn had survived a different kind of battlefield. For over 20 years, she served as a combat medic in the U.S. Army, patching up wounded soldiers in the worst conditions imaginable. Under fire, in dust storms, in the dead of night. She had seen things most people couldn't even fathom. And she had carried every scar, every scream, every last breath of the fallen deep in her bones. When the final deployment ended, so did the version of Harper that had once laughed easily and trusted others. Honorably discharged at 54, she returned to her hometown in rural Oregon, hoping for peace. What she found instead was silence that echoed too loud, and shadows that came alive when the sun went down. The nightmares didn't wait long to return. Neither did the panic attacks. The tightness in her chest, the cold sweat, the sudden flashbacks to sirens, shrapnel, and screaming. She avoided crowds, avoided loud places, avoided anything that might trigger her. It was during one of her aimless drives through the outskirts of town that she found him, a stray German shepherd soaked from rain, limping from an old injury, lie beside a flooded ditch. His ribs showed through his matted coat. His eyes were tired but watching, cautious, wounded. Something about the way he didn't flinch when she approached told her he'd seen his own kind of war. She didn't ask questions. She didn't need to. She opened the back of her truck and said softly, "You're not dying out here. Not tonight." He climbed in without a sound. She named him Valor. She didn't know it then, but that broken dog would become the one steady thing in her life, and beginning of something she thought she had lost forever. Hope. At first, it was just the two of them, Harper and Valor, sharing quiet days and quieter nights. They didn't speak the same language, but they understood each other. Harper's silence wasn't empty to Valor, and Valor's stillness wasn't passive to Harper. Together, they found a rhythm only survivors know. Then came Maya. Harper's 10-year-old granddaughter arrived with a suitcase too big for her tiny frame and eyes that had already seen more than most children ever should. Her mother, Harper's daughter, had passed suddenly, and Maya had nowhere else to go. So she came to live with a grandmother she barely remembered and a dog she had never met. But grief recognizes grief. It didn't take long for Maya to curl up beside Valor, resting her head against his flank like he was made of safety itself. And Valor, as if understanding the weight the child carried, stayed by her side without fail. Maya didn't speak much at first, but she drew sketchbooks filled with images of Valor, running, resting, watching. Sometimes she'd draw Harper, too, though always from behind, as if afraid to meet her face on paper. One night, after Harper woke from a nightmare, shaking and drenched in sweat, Maya came into the room barefoot and carrying her sketchbook. "You were crying," the girl said softly. "I heard you." Harper looked at Maya, not just a child, but the pain behind those young eyes. She had already lost her mother. What kind of world would it be if she also lost the one person left to lean on? Harper couldn't afford to crumble. Not anymore. If not for herself, then for Maya, she had to fight. She had to find a way back. Harper wanted to say it was nothing, but when Maya opened the sketchbook and showed her a drawing of Harper and Valor, curled up together on the floor like a shield against the dark, she couldn't find the words. From that night forward, healing became something they did together. One afternoon, while Harper was cleaning out an old storage box, Maya found a worn-out dog training manual, something her mother had once used. Later that night, Harper caught Maya watching a video about service dogs helping veterans with PTSD. Something clicked. Maybe training Valor wasn't just about obedience. Maybe it could be a way back to herself. So they started small commands, simple routines. Not for competition, not yet, but for healing. They took morning walks, cooked simple meals, trained Valor with quiet patience. Maya recorded videos, cheering every time he succeeded. Slowly, Harper began to feel present again, not just surviving, but living. What they had wasn't flashy, but it was real. 3 broken hearts learning how to beat again in sync. The idea came from Maya. One evening, as they sat on the porch watching Valor chase fireflies, Maya turned to Harper with a spark in her eyes. "Grandma, there's a dog training competition next month in town. I think Valor could win." Harper chuckled. "When? He barely listens to me half the time." "But he listens when it counts," Maya insisted. "And besides, it's not just about winning. It's about showing everyone how amazing he is." Harper hesitated. The mere thought of standing before a crowd under the glaring lights and watchful eyes stirred a storm of anxiety within her, reminiscent of the chaos she once faced on the battlefield. But then she looked at Maya, hopeful, determined, and so full of belief. Maybe this was more than just a competition. Maybe it was a chance to reclaim a part of herself she thought was lost. "All right," Harper nodded. "Let's do it." That night, long after Maya had gone to bed, Harper sat alone in the kitchen, her hands wrapped around a mug of cold tea. The idea of competing clawed at her, exciting and terrifying all at once. Crowds, noise, lights, all things she had avoided for years. Her mind spun with memories she didn't want to revisit. Screams, sirens, the feel of bloody gloves. Her chest tightened, but then came Beller's steady breathing at her feet, and the sound of Maya's soft snore drifting from the other room. She couldn't let fear win again. Not when 2 lives now leaned on her for strength. She had survived a war. Surely, she could survive this arena. It wasn't about trophies. It was about reclaiming control. For herself, for Maya, for the dog who had never given up on her. Training intensified. Every morning, they practiced commands, agility drills, and obedience routines. Valor responded with enthusiasm, and Maya became the unofficial coach, cheering them on and keeping spirits high. There were setbacks. Harper's PTSD would flare up unexpectedly, memories crashing in like tidal waves. But each time Maya and Valor were there, a steady hand, a calming presence. The day of the competition arrived. The arena buzzed with energy, dogs barking, people chatting, and loudspeakers announcing events. Harper's heart pounded, but she focused on Valor, who stood by her side, alert and ready. Their performance was seamless. Valor executed every command with precision, and Harper moved with a confidence she hadn't felt in years. When the winners were announced, Harper and Valor took first place. Tears welled up in Harper's eyes as she hugged Maya and Valor. It wasn't just a victory in a competition. It was a triumph over fear, a testament to healing and a new beginning. As Harper wiped away tears and Valor nuzzled her hand, the crowd still buzzing from their performance, a man stood quietly near the judge's tent, dressed in an expensive suede jacket and polished boots. He didn't clap or smile like the others. His name was Grant Ellison, a well-known breeder and sponsor in the elite dog show circuits. He had watched Valor's routine intently, arms crossed, jaw clenched. There was something in the way the dog moved, how he responded not to commands but to instinct. It wasn't training. It was something deeper, something rare. As Harper turned to lead with Maya and Valor, Grant's eyes followed them, calculating and cold. He didn't say a word, but the wheels in his mind were already turning. The victory didn't last long. 2 days after the competition, Harper awoke to an eerie silence. Valor's usual morning nuzzle was missing. Her heart thudded as she called out once, twice. Nothing. She found the back door ajar, Valor's leash still hanging by the wall, untouched. Panic surged. "Maya," Harper called, trying to keep her voice steady. But the look on her granddaughter's face, wide eyes, trembling lips, told her she already knew. They searched the neighborhood. Flyers, phone calls, desperate pleas on social media, but Valor had vanished without a trace. The loss was suffocating. Harper sat for hours on the porch, staring at the horizon as if sheer will might bring him home. Her PTSD returned like a storm. Nightmares, cold sweats, the crushing weight of helplessness. One afternoon, as thunder rolled in the distance, she sank to the kitchen floor, unable to breathe. Maya ran to her, clutched her shoulders. "Don't disappear, Grandma." "Not again." Harper blinked back tears. "I don't know how to do this without him." "Yes, you do," Maya whispered. "You're strong. Stronger than anyone I know. And Valor needs you now." It was that moment, the fear in Maya's voice, the memory of Valor pressing against her leg. During panic attacks that jolted Harper into clarity, she knew someone had taken him. The way the door was left open, no signs of struggle, no barking. It wasn't random. Then she remembered Grant, the cold glint in his eye when he watched Valor during the competition, the way he applauded without smiling. Something in her gut twisted. Harper stood, heart pounding with new resolve. She couldn't collapse now. Not when Valor might be out there, afraid, hurt. She owed it to him. She owed it to Maya. The fight wasn't over. It had just begun. The house felt hollow without Valor. Harper kept replaying that morning. What she could have done differently, what signs she might have missed. She went over every second like a medic reviewing failed triage. Where had she failed him? Each day blurred into the next. Flyers covered telephone poles. Harper spoke to neighbors, knocked on doors, scoured local shelters. Nothing. It was as if he had vanished into thin air. Maya remained hopeful. Someone will see him. Someone will call, she whispered each night, tracing her finger across the worn map they kept on the kitchen table. Harper wasn't so sure. Her instinct screamed that this wasn't a simple lost dog. Valor didn't run. He always came back. No, this was something else. Something calculated. Late one night, Harper sat alone, staring at the corkboard she created. Maps, photos, pins, notes. Nothing connected. She clenched her fists, trembling. Another panic attack built in her chest. But then she remembered Maya's face the day Valor disappeared. The fear, the way she said, "Don't disappear, Grandma." That memory kept her breathing. Harper closed her eyes, thinking back to the competition, the people, the noise, the faces. Then one face emerged from the fog, Grant Ellison. He had been there, watching, silent. Too silent. She remembered the look in his eyes as Valor performed. Cold, calculating. Her heart pounded. That had to mean something. She pulled out the program from the competition. Grant's name was listed as a sponsor. With shaking hands, Harper picked up the phone and called the local police. "I need to report a theft," she said. "And I think I know who took my dog." It wasn't much to go on. No witnesses, no camera footage, no proof. But it was a place to start. Harper wasn't ready to give up, not on Valor, not on herself. If she had to walk through every shadow of her past again to find him, she would. Detective Carson listened patiently as Harper explained everything. Her history with PTSD, the connection with Valor, the sudden disappearance, and her suspicions about Grant Ellison. "We don't have much to go on," Carson admitted. "But I've heard Ellison's name before. He's got money, influence, enough to make things disappear." Harper handed over everything she had. The flyer, competition program, notes from her board, even a list of questions she had written in sleepless nights. Carson promised to look into it. A few days passed in silence. Then came a call. "We might have something," Carson said. "An anonymous tip about a private property Ellison owns out near the outskirts. Old kennel facility." Without waiting, Harper offered to come. Carson refused. "If he's guilty, we need a warrant. Let us do this right." The next 24 hours crawled by like a century. When Carson called again, his voice was grave. "We found signs. Scratches on walls, a chewed-through leash, blood traces. No dog, but signs of one being held there recently." Harper's heart sank. "Do you think he's still alive?" she whispered. "I think someone didn't get the obedience they expected," Carson said. "Dogs like Valor, they don't submit, especially when her bond is with someone else." Tears welled up in Harper's eyes, but not from fear, From fury, Valor hadn't just been taken. He had fought back. Late that night, Harper stood outside, staring up at the stars. The trauma ward made her afraid of many things. Crowds, silence, even her own mind. But what she feared most now was losing the one being who had helped her find herself again. She couldn't let that happen. She wouldn't. The next morning, Carson showed up with new intel. "We got footage from a gas station near that property," he said. "It shows Ellison's truck leaving but not returning. And there's a second vehicle that we tracked to a vet clinic outside town." Harper's breath caught. A vet? Maybe Valor got hurt. Maybe someone's trying to help. Carson looked her straight in the eye. "We're close, Harper. Hang in there." For the first time in days, Harper allowed hope to bloom. The man who had stolen her peace thought he could erase the bond between her and Valor. But he underestimated what love and survival could do. The vet clinic was small, nestled between oak trees just beyond the edge of town. Harper and Detective Carson arrived just after dawn. The receptionist looked startled, but nodded when Carson showed his badge. "In the back," she whispered. "A man brought him in 3 days ago," said he. Found the dog limping near the highway. Harper followed her through the sterile hallway, heart pounding so loudly it drowned out everything else. Each step felt like a march towards something sacred. Then she saw him. Ballard lay in a kennel, his coat matted, one leg bandaged, a bruise under one eye, but he was alive. The moment their eyes met, his ears perked, and his body struggled to rise despite the pain. Harper dropped to her knees. "Hey boy, it's me." Valor let out a low whine, tail thumping softly. As soon as the latch clicked open, he staggered into her arms, pressing his weight into her chest as if to make sure she was real. She wrapped her arms around him, burying her face in his fur, tears soaking into his coat. "I'm so sorry," she whispered. "I should have protected you better." But Valor didn't blame her. He never had. Detective Carson stood silently nearby, giving them space. It wasn't just a reunion. It was a resurrection. Later, as the vet explained Valor's injuries, minor fractures, dehydration, trauma from abuse, Harper's hand shook, but her voice stayed steady. "Whatever he needs, we'll get it. He's coming home." On the ride back, Maya waited on the porch, eyes wide with hope. When the truck pulled up and Valor stepped out, stiff but standing, Maya burst into tears. She ran to him, hugging him tightly as he licked her face, whining with joy. Harper watched the scene, overwhelmed. She had nearly given in to fear, nearly let the darkness win again. But not this time. This time she had fought back and won. The days that followed were different. The nightmares still came, but Harper no longer woke up gasping. Valor was always there, his head resting across her ankles, steady and sure. When she walked through town, people stopped her, not to whisper or stare, but to say, "I saw your story on the news." Or simply, "You're brave." She didn't feel brave, but she felt lighter. She returned to her drawings. More color now, fewer shadows. The little girl who had once curled up beside her grandmother in silence now ran ahead with laughter, Valor at her heels. They had made it through. One afternoon, Harper stood at the edge of the old pasture behind their home. Maya had tied a ribbon to Valor's collar, a faded yellow one from her mother's old collection. It fluttered in the breeze as he sat alert beside Harper, watching butterflies dance. "I thought I lost everything after the war," Harper whispered. She looked down at the dog who had pulled her through every panic, every memory, then at the girl who still carried the spark of a mother lost too soon. Or maybe this is where it all begins. She didn't need a showcase or a trophy. She didn't need permission to heal. The bond between her, Valor, and Maya was more than recovery. It was rebirth. So they built something new, a training circle in the backyard. A few veterans from the community, dogs who had once been forgotten, people who had once been broken. And every day, Harper stood a little taller, spoke a little louder, slept a little deeper. Because healing, she learned, isn't about erasing the past. It's about writing something better in its place. Harper once believed her story had concluded with the war, her scars too profound to mend. Yet through love, resilience, and unexpected companionship, she discovered that healing is not just possible, it's transformative. Healing found her in the most unexpected way, on 4 legs, with steady eyes and a loyal heart. With Valor and Maya by her side, she didn't just survive, she lived again. To anyone carrying invisible wounds, remember this. Healing isn't about forgetting the past. It's about building something better because of it. Sometimes, all it takes is one reason to try.